Welcome to our podcast, Broker Banter Denver, where we are breaking down barriers to home ownership. I'm your host, Kim Davis, the real estate expert.
And I'm Patrick Williams, the mortgage guy. We're here to inform and educate about the home financing and buying process.
And on today's podcast, we're going to talk about June stats for the Denver metro area, and then what discount points are on a loan and when you should and shouldn't pay for them.
How was your 4th?
It was good. How was yours?
It was good.
Yeah, we took a week off here, and so, you know, it was
it felt like pretty much all of America took the week off. I don't know. I tried to work a little bit like Monday and Tuesday,
right.
And nobody was answering the phones. Like, it was just, I almost was like, well, I guess I'm just going to throw my hands up in the air and you know, go for a bike ride or something.
You just don't care?
No, I don't think I did that.
Okay.
But I did have a good time.
Good.
Yeah.
I worked at a fireworks stand that my brother runs, and so that's always fun for me. I always think it's fun.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. You do seem to enjoy that. I'm like, are you sure you want to do that?
Yeah. And you have clients who come by, and
I've never met somebody in a bad mood while buying fireworks. Like, it's a fun time. You're like, let's go buy some stuff we're going to blow up later.
Let's be honest. Fireworks in Colorado are kind of lame. I grew up in Kansas where the only thing illegal were pop bottle rockets, and that was so that you didn't catch the wheat fields on fire.
Yeah, we had those growing up, the pop bottle rockets. But I lived in northern Colorado. Northern Colorado is not very far from Wyoming. Mm-hmm. And there have been people known to drive to Wyoming so they can get good fireworks.
Right.
So wait a minute. You're telling me you got a fireworks stand and you don't have any, I don't know, I can't think of the whole Joe Dirt thing. With or without the scooter stick?
I don't know what
you
you're
don't know
talking
that?
about.
Oh my gosh,
Joe
one
Dirt.
of the best firework scenes in
really?
all of the
you know
movies.
What?
Yes.
I think I saw it because what's his name? The actor
who's Joe Dirt?
Yeah.
What is it? David Spade.
David Spade.
Yeah.
So David Spade and Dalen Carvey have a podcast. And
I think they're a little bigger than us.
And
I think they have like 2 or 3 more followers.
Yeah. Maybe just 2 or 3 more.
Yeah.
100,000.
Yeah.
Whatever. But they have a little like meme or something that has that little portion of him talking about it.
It's funny. Yeah. It's hilarious because all of the names that he comes up with, I've never really heard.
Oh yeah,
but they're all hilarious, and it's like you feel like you know what he's talking about. Yeah. So we did no fireworks this year ourselves.
Right.
Like typically, we'll light something off. At least it's legal fireworks in the state of Colorado. Nothing that leaves the ground. But this year we kind of laid low. My son was in Poland for like 12 days, and he had just got home. He was super jet lagged. My wife worked like 5 shifts straight. She's a nurse, and so 12-hour days.
Right.
Really more like 13. So 5 straight. So she worked like, 60 plus hours in 5 days. So she was exhausted.
Right.
So we're like, you know what? Let's just kind of chill, like have a little bit of a barbecue and walk over to the park and watch some fireworks.
Yeah. Well, my husband, I've been working at the fireworks stand with my brother for a few years now, and he enjoys 4th of July. He calls it Independence J.
Ooh, that's good. I like that.
Independence
It's
J.
very
He's
close.
like, you're not going to ruin Independence J, are you?
Oh, so wait a minute. So
just kidding.
So on the 4th of July, Jay gets to do whatever he wants?
Yeah, he has Independence J Day.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I need to come up with something.
Day,
it just doesn't rhyme. I don't have anything that rhymes with my name. But that sounds like a really nice time. Just like whatever he wants to do.
Patrick Day, Independence Pat.
Maybe in
Patrick
March. Maybe I could do something in March.
Like what?
Well, I don't know. It's St. Patty's Day, right?
Oh.
Like that seems like it would work. No?
St. Patty's Day is Independence Patrick's Day?
Well, the problem is that, I could probably go skiing or something. That's a good time to go skiing.
You don't like to ski in March. We've already covered this.
No, I want to start riding my bike. And so,
right.
But sometimes it's snowing. And so that might not work. 4th of July, you're pretty safe. Like, there's usually not any snow.
Right.
Yeah.
No snow.
Yeah.
That's usually when they close the last.
A lot of times you can still ski at like A Basin.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of the goal.
Done, though, I think.
I don't know that anybody made it to the 4th of July.
I don't think
this year.
anyone did this year because I drove over Loveland Pass recently and it was
pretty
bare.
Bare. Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, have you heard much about the market lately? We have some June stats that came out a little bit early.
I have heard a little bit about the market, and it's interesting.
I
think we're seeing some maybe a turning of the tide. I don't know. I haven't looked at these stats yet. You just sent them to me. So I'm going to be looking at them at the first time as we go through them.
Well, you know how we keep talking about the market and, you know, what it is to be a balanced market. We've said, you know, close to 10,000 homes makes us a balanced market. We're saying somewhere between 8 to 10. And for the first time in the month of June, we actually hit over 10,000 homes on the market. So what that means...
That's a pretty big milestone.
Yeah, it is. It's been years since...
19?
I was thinking, so the bottom
early
of
2020.
Well, the bottom of the market here in the Denver metro area from, you know, the big crash, which, you know, we talked about, I think in our first podcast, The Big Short, which really kind of talks about that.
Yeah.
The crash, most other places I think hit before it did here in Colorado, but our bottom was 2010.
2010.
Like the height of the Denver market was 2008. Our bottom was 2010. I saw a pretty good pickup in, you know, in 11, you know, people started buying again. But I would tell you it's probably been, and, you know, don't quote me on this, but I think it's been since the, you know, 2012, 13.
Really? That long?
Maybe, because it's been a pretty much
solid,
a solid buyer's market.
There was a short blip there with COVID because nobody knew what was going to happen, right?
Well, around COVID, I remember we started to creep up into, right before COVID in 19, we started to creep up around 6,000 homes. I remember thinking, wow, that's crazy. And then all of a sudden, COVID hits. We go from 6,000 available homes to 1,000, 1,500.
Oh, it got crazy.
It got crazy. Yeah. And that's when we saw, you know, prices rise in Denver, like significantly, like fast.
Like
it's
month over month.
Yes. Day over day, weekend over weekend. Let's be honest. It was.
Well, and that was the hard part. Like for us, it was like we were appraising last month's data and we weren't able to even keep up with it because it was moving so quickly. Fast. Yeah.
And so then people just had a lot of cash. And so they were saying, hey, we'll cover appraisal gaps. And honestly, I mean, it would have been great if you got in, even though it was crazy times. But now things are settling down. The market is, you know, it is still moving up in the Denver metro area. They still are predicting, you know, at least a 4% rise in prices. So there's still no reason to wait.
Yeah.
But it's the first time in years, we'll just say years, that we have had 10,000 active homes on the market. And so what does that mean exactly? So just over 10,000, but we are still having about, in the month of June, we had about 5,800, just 5,800 plus new listings come on the market. But at the same time, we had 4,000 homes go under contract. And so how this usually works is, and then about 3,600 homes that actually close. So as you can see, you know, it sounds like... It sounds weird, but then people who've been waiting.
No, but it's a cycle. It's still right. Like, and then if we're looking at an average days on market of just over 30, every month there is.
Well, and when we say it's not a buyer's or seller's market, I mean it used to be 6 months of market, but they are saying that the daily average in the MLS was 27 days. In June, and then the median, of course, is 12. So what does that mean? That means that things are still, there are some houses that if you price it correctly are still selling within a weekend.
And the one on my street did. Yeah. Went under contract first weekend.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
It's still there.
We still see that every now and then. It's just not a for sure thing. So as a seller.
That was commonplace before.
It was commonplace.
Like you could expect not only just one offer, but multiple offers first weekend.
Way over.
And that's just not a typical market. Okay.
And I would tell you that now sellers are just, you know, a realtor needs to be very informational and say, hey, you know, the chances are it's not probably going to sell in the first weekend.
Yeah.
Expectations need to be put back in place for sellers and for buyers.
Yeah.
You know, so sellers need to understand that, hey, it could take 30, 60, 90 days, you know.
And that just seems like a death sentence when you think about most recent historical, right? So it's more, I think you said it well, is setting proper expectations. And working with somebody who understands the Denver market, what's happening right now and where we're at.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's, I mean, I think that's good news. Is that good news?
Yeah, it is good news. It's good news. I think, prices couldn't continue to rise and rise and
Right.
rise. We need a moment to
Catch
kinda
our breath?
Catch our breath. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sellers, need to just, like you said, have expectations, and buyers is a great opportunity for those buyers
Yeah.
who, especially first-time home buyers that might need a little bit of help, or people who are only approved for a certain amount of money. You don't have to go over asking. It's an opportunity for buyers to get into a house and get
Yeah.
into this market in Denver. And it's also an opportunity for sellers. Hey, sellers, you can still sell. You shouldn't be afraid of it. It's not a buyer's market yet.
It's a balanced
Right. It's a
market.
balanced market. And it may not be a buyer's market. I'll tell you what, once again, we've been saying this. If interest rates get anywhere into the fives, 5.99, you're going to see a flood of buyers come back onto the market.
Well, with that being said, I know we're still not, you got some more numbers that you probably want to go over here for
Right.
June, but we had some really good news this morning come out on CPI. Inflation came in lower than expected, and the lowest reading in like 3 years. So it came in at
really?
3%. We were expecting 3.1, which doesn't sound like a lot, but we haven't had many readings come in under expectations.
Oh.
And so what's happened as a result of that is that the 10-year, which is what's
Bond?
closely monitored for mortgage rates, has dropped below 4.2 for the first time in months. So we're currently sitting at the lowest level that we've been really all year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, good
Yeah.
news, hopefully.
So yeah, we had 31 basis point change this morning as a result of that report. So as of right now, we sit at a 90% chance of a Fed rate cut in September.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's great, because when we did our last podcast, which was right before the 4th of July, you
It
had
was
said
60.
a 65%
Yeah,
chance.
66%.
And so now we're like
it's
at
like
90.
90. Yeah. So
Yes.
that report this morning just bumped those chances up
Right.
way up. And really everybody's forecasting 2 cuts for the year.
That's wonderful. And let me just, tell it, I am personally, I want interest rates to go down.
We all want interest rates to go
Yes,
down.
we all want it to go
Yeah.
down, but we are about to do, my husband and I are going to take on a fix and flip. And so we are, as you know, but
I do, but it's very exciting.
Yeah, Jay
Yeah.
built custom homes for 15 years, went into the commercial industry, and now we are going to tackle on a big fix and flip. And so we are hoping interest rates come down so that buyers will jump in the market. So
Yeah,
that's
you might have timed that very well, Miss Kim Davis. It seems like things are moving in the right
like
direction.
I'm in the market
That's
or
for sure.
something.
It's like you have a little bit of knowledge about what's going on the market. So what other June numbers do you want to point out to us?
The big thing is that we've talked in the past, right? What price ranges are really moving? And so if we look at the stats here, once again, our number one price point that seems to move as far as like buying and selling,
500 to 750.
500 to 750 is still our big number, with about 1,300 that closed last month. And then our second one is the 750 to million, had about just over 560 homes that sold last month. And then coming in actually third is the 300,000 to 500,000 range. And these are detached homes,
Yeah.
so not townhomes or condos. And then, of course, coming in fourth is the million to 1.5. And then everything else kind of trails. It's kind of funny if you look at the stats. There's 12 homes, 0 to 300,000. And most likely those are probably pretty big rehab homes or things with structural or
Right, or
needing
some major
yes.
issues. Yeah. It still surprises me that under 500 price point doesn't move faster or doesn't.
Well, you know what I think it is? I don't think that it's not that it doesn't move faster, but I think there aren't as many homes that are in that price point.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's
your
why.
Options under 500 are
Limited.
a little more limited
Right.
than if you can go
And so
up above.
it would be interesting. I mean, 536 in May, 428. So I think that really is a price issue. Not issue, but you know what I mean. Like there's
like you're limited by the
limited,
number of
correct.
properties available
because
in that price
if
range.
there were more houses in that price range, I'm sure that number would be higher. But
Right.
I think most homes in the Denver, as we've talked about, the median price point is 650 or
Yeah.
670.
Yeah, which is right in
And-
that 500
right.
to 750 range. Yeah, and that does seem to be pretty much where the majority of your, suburban planned
Right.
unit development home falls, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your PUD.
PUD, that's right. But we try not to do the acronyms. That's why I spelled it out, which maybe was weird in this scenario. I don't know. But yeah,
planned
yeah, you're just
unit
your neighborhood
development.
kind of, yeah. Your average HOA neighborhood is basically what
Your
that
average,
means.
just
Speaking
big
of
builder.
Yeah,
Yeah. Speaking
yeah.
of what?
the HOA, you know what I did yesterday?
No.
I didn't get a nasty gram, but I was worried about it.
Tell me, Patrick.
Okay,
What did you do?
So, my gate was really in terrible condition. Like my
Your
gate
back
was,
gate,
yeah,
your
into my
backyard.
backyard. It was in terrible condition. We had our neighbors across the street. He reached out and he's like, "Hey, we're headed out of town, and we
Can you
don't
watch
have
your
anybody to watch our dog." And we lost our dog recently, and they have such a great dog. He's
Poor
really
Blue.
well trained, black lab. And so I was like, yeah, absolutely. We'd love to watch Blue for you. But my back gate. So I was like, I got to get this back gate fixed, right? So I get it fixed and I get it, put together so Blue will stay in the backyard. Well,
Right.
in Highlands Ranch, you are required to paint your fence Highlands Ranch brown if it faces the street. And so I've had that fence up for probably a couple weeks now with no brown paint on it.
Right.
So I was starting to get a little worried about it. I've never gotten an HOA letter.
Did you get an HOA letter?
No, I didn't. I got it
Oh.
painted. I got it painted before, I got the nasty
Oh
gram.
my goodness. So I'm not telling anyone, but
It looks great in Highlands Ranch brown,
Highlands
though.
Ranch
Let me
is
just tell you.
so big.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I feel
they
like I
don't
see.
have a lot of people. So usually it's your neighbors that turn you in and complain, and then that's when you get the nasty gram. I mean, they do drive around. I'm not saying
I've
they
seen
don't.
the little
Yeah.
HOA car
Yeah.
that says like Highlands
But you
Ranch.
live at the back of the longest cul-de-sac ever.
It's possible.
The street is seriously like 2 miles long before you get to his house.
It's kind of nice back there.
It
It's
is
quiet.
I
But you're right. I'm
understand why
guessing
you live there.
nobody turned me in. No, my neighbor didn't say anything. But my fence looks very nice, brown.
Speaking on a tangent, my nephew just told me today earlier at a closing that we had that his dog got knocked up and they have 10 free puppies.
That sounds great. If you need a puppy, please call Kim Davis at the number.
I was thinking
I personally,
you
I've
wanted a
realized as much as I did love Blue and loved having him around the house, I think we're good for a little while without a dog.
He is not a Coloradan.
I am
not
a
have a
native.
dog?
I am a native. I just, we're about to be empty nesters, and freedom is what, like, it's going to be independence, empty nest for,
Independence,
it's,
Patrick and Paula.
yeah, like not just one day a year. I'm talking like the whole year. I don't have kids at home. I got no dogs. Hey, what are you doing? I don't know. Let's go to Moab. I don't know. Let's go to Breck. Like, what do you want to do? We don't even have to worry about finding somebody to watch the dog. I don't know. It sounds really amazing.
Sounds
Is
sad,
that sad?
is what it
But
sounds like to
you know
me.
what? If you go away and you need somebody to watch Vader, I'm your man. I'll watch your dog for you. But I don't need my own dog.
You have to take Nala, too.
Oh, that's fine. I'll watch Nala too.
I have
She's
two.
sweet. That's right. I'm sorry. I just Vader in my head because he's also a black lab. Although he's probably twice the size of Blue.
Yeah, it's funny because I always say, oh, his name's Vader, like Darth.
Well, what else would it be after? I've never heard
know.
Vader without the context of Darth. Right?
Right.
Yeah,
And he's a black
yeah.
lab. So,
Right.
I mean, I think, and it's funny because everyone goes, oh, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that help.
Thank you for that. But I mean, really, that's the basis of it. We can talk about attached homes. They had about just over 2,000 homes that came on the market in June. About close to 1,300 that went pending, and then 1,200 that closed. So even condos are still moving.
They are. Yeah.
So I think what we didn't say, well, you know what? I didn't pull them in these stats about what the median and average price points are for last month, but I'm guessing they haven't gone up too much.
No, I think they're probably pretty similar. If they've
Yeah.
gone up, they've only gone up pretty minimally. But what I think this means is that we right now, with interest rates moving in the direction they are, like this might be it. Like with the amount of houses that are currently on the market, as soon as, like you said, 5.99,
Right.
there are a mass amount of people that are just
sitting waiting.
and waiting.
Right. So actually, I do have. So average sale price, I don't remember what it was for last year, or last month, but average sale price, 723,000.
It says 717 here for last month.
Well,
So it went up like
that's just detached, right? Oh, for
Yeah.
May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it went up like $7,000. So like 1%.
Yeah, 1.91%.
1.91.
From last year. This one
Or you
says
could
for
just say
last year.
2. You're welcome, Jay. 2%. 2% price
2%.
increase.
2%
month
price
over month.
increase. So
okay.
what that is saying, still great time to buy, right? You're still making money on
Yeah,
your house.
you
Yeah.
are. Even at this point, we're still seeing price gains.
Right.
But
So-
they're gonna get a lot steeper as rates do come back down
Right.
and the demand comes back up.
So average days on the market, this is interesting. So as we're saying, you're going to start to see this number go up. But average days on market in June was about 29 days. And then in 2023, it was 27 days. Because our stats are always 30 days behind, I would tell
Right.
you, because we're working off of kind of everything that closed back in, like, if these are June numbers, it was, the month prior, May, that they're doing, like,
They
so there
were-
might not have been as much inventory. And so things were still selling. So it'll be interesting to see what July numbers are, to see how those days on market.
Yeah,
goes up.
and what Kim is pointing out is the typical real estate transaction takes roughly 30 days.
Correct.
And so anything that's actually closed in July most likely went under contract in June. And so we're always looking back roughly 30 days because of that lag.
Correct.
Yeah.
But because, we do talk about like what's happening now and what's happening in June. I mean, we're going to see those days on market probably swing up into the 30s, I'm guessing. And then it'll be interesting to see what happens in August. And in Colorado, it seems like we have this lull in July. I think a lot of people go on vacations and they're starting to gear up. I mean, we're halfway through summer.
Summer, I feel like 4th of July is kind of
Yeah.
the midpoint through summer, and a lot of our schools go back to school pretty
Early.
early in August. And so once you hit July, all of a sudden I think everybody realizes, oh, like summer's at least halfway over, if not
Right.
more. So we gotta take advantage, and there's just not as much market activity.
Correct.
Yeah.
But then we have this little fall pickup that happens usually right after school starts, which is interesting.
It is
You would think
interesting.
that a lot of people would want to move before school starts, but they seem to wait. So
Well, and a lot of people just move inside their school district
Right.
to where,
Right.
a move doesn't necessarily affect
Correct.
where their kids go to school. And we have open enrollment. So if you do want to keep going to the same school, you can, and all that kind of stuff.
Correct.
So, those are good numbers.
yeah,
Thank you for sharing
thanks.
that.
So I have a question for you, because this is something that people talk about all the
Yeah.
time. We said we were going to talk about mortgage points and what that means and
Yeah.
if you should buy. And so if you don't mind, like, what is a point?
Okay, so it's defined as a discount point, and the interest rates are variable on every single transaction. So we have a thing called loan level pricing adjustments, and that's been instituted over the last year and a half or so. And this is for every difference in your transaction, whether that's your credit score, your loan to value, your debt to income ratio, there are different variances in the rate. So every single rate is going to be different. But what the discount point is let's say your interest rate is 7.25. You can pay a discount point, so 1 point, and you can get that interest rate to drop from 7.25. So you're paying an upfront fee that's collected at closing to reduce your overall interest rate on your loan.
Okay. So can we play this out? Like, what's an easy number for you? So someone's buying a what?
$500,000.
Okay. $500,000 house.
Easy math. Yeah.
And the interest rate is 7.25. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So the interest rate is 7.25. And then what you hear a lot in a real estate transaction is like, hey, you can buy down that rate by some points.
Yep, paying discount points.
Pay discount
Yep.
points. So what would that conversation look like? So, hey, Okay,
Yeah.
let's pretend that I'm the buyer.
Okay,
So-
hi. Would you like to submit a loan application?
Okay, we're past that.
Okay.
Okay, and now we're talking about,
So-
hey, you know what? This payment's a little steep for me. Is
Yeah.
there anything that we can do?
So we can look at buying down the rate,
Uh-huh.
right? And if you have a $500,000 loan amount, 1 point costs $5,000. So it's literally 1%.
1%.
What people don't understand is that by paying one discount point, that doesn't mean that your interest rate goes down dollar for dollar. So you're not going from 7.25 to 6.25 by paying that $5,000 or
So
that 1
What
point.
would you go down to?
Usually it's between a half and 3/8, so 0.375 to 0.5.
Okay.
Every
So then
situation
why
is
do
a
they
little
call
bit
it
different.
A point? See, that's where I used to always get confused, and I think that's where a lot of the public gets confused because you say point, but then it doesn't go down a whole point. It's
You
like-
pay 1 point.
You pay 1 point.
Yes,
Okay,
so it's
that's-
1%, and there's variables. You don't have to necessarily. It's not in increments of one. We can look at increments usually of 1/8 or 0.125.
Okay, so you can do like a 1.25.
Yeah,
or
and it really it kind of depends on the loan application. There's usually a sweet spot, and it has to do with the secondary market and selling those loans after they've been originated.
Okay.
And so that's tied to all of the 10-year yield that we talk about and mortgage-backed securities, and so there's a lot of nuances in it, and I don't want to get too detailed because it'll bore you all to death. But there's usually a sweet spot based on your credit score and your loan to value, and paying 1 point typically is right there. It's usually between a half and 1, and I really don't ever recommend anybody paying over 1 point.
Okay, so
Now, where it gets tricky though, so right now in this environment, I really don't recommend people to buy down the rate or pay a discount point. And the reason for that is the majority of people who are buying a home right now will most likely not be in this loan in 2 years from today, right? Because rates are coming down, and we're going to refinance you. We're gonna date
Right.
the rate,
Marry
right?
the house.
And marry the
Yes.
house. And so we're going to get you out of that loan. And so the amount of time that it's going to take you to recoup that $5,000 that you paid, let's say with 0.375, now you're saving $50 a month on your mortgage payment because the reduced interest rate.
Right.
Well, how long does that actually take you to come out ahead?
Right.
Right. It takes a really long time. That's like 100 months. So you're never going to recoup the costs that it took to buy down that interest rate. Now, if you're really uncomfortable with the payment and you feel much more comfortable, then that makes sense.
Right.
But as rates start to come down, it may make more sense to pay discount points. Usually what I like to look at is about a 24-month period to recoup the costs that it took to buy down the rate.
Right.
So if you can get back ahead in 24 months, then usually that's kind of your break even and where it makes
So like,
sense.
let's say you have a higher loan value, and for instance, someone buys down a point, so maybe they have to pay a little bit more upfront, but they're saving $300 a month.
Yeah.
Or you can pay that back a lot faster, the money that they had to bring to closing. So that makes sense.
It does. It makes a little more sense there. And then in a low interest rate environment, we had the opposite. So, and this is where you have to be really careful when you're shopping interest rates, because it's not just interest rate that you're looking at. You also have to look at the fees that are associated with closing
and
the
actually,
loan.
that's great that you bring that up, because I think that a lot of, buyers go, oh, hey, this person, is shopping, the mortgage rate, and they say, hey, we're going to give you, like, let's say you said it's 7.25. I know that's probably lower than that right now. Or
It is,
whatever,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
But then this other mortgage broker is saying, oh, well, our rate is 6.5. But what they don't know is that they actually automatically bought down the rate, and so your closing costs are more. So
Exactly.
you need to.
So you have to be able to compare not only rate, but also the amount of fees that it takes to close the loan, because that's where that piece, the discount points that you're paying to get that 6.5% rate will be reflected. And so if you're only looking at interest rate, you're really only getting half the story.
So then I guess the thing that we see a lot of, and I've done it too, realtors do and sellers, is they talk about, hey, if you buy my house, we'll give you a 2-1 buy down, or we'll pay some points for you. We'll credit, $10,000 towards your loan so you can get a better rate. Can you explain what a 2-1 buy down is?
So a 2-1 buy down, what that does is essentially the seller pays the difference between what your interest rate is, your actual interest rate. So let's stay with 7.25. So for the first year, the payment that you make is at 5.25. So they've bought your interest rate down by 2%.
Okay.
Then the second year is 1%. But
so
your
then
actual
it would go to 6.25. I mean, hypothetically.
Yep.
And then the third year, because you're out of the 2-1 buy down, it would go in. So it kind of helped you get into the house, get used to that payment. Now, the question I have is, let's say someone takes a 2-1 buy down, and then in the meantime, rates go down.
Yeah.
Right? So now they're sitting at 7.25 possibly, and now all of a sudden they rates go down to 5.99. I would rather, for my clients, just, this is me personally, would say, hey, instead of a 2-1 buy down, why don't you just buy down our rate completely? And so then if I refinance, great, it doesn't. But
right now, we saw a lot of 2-1 buy downs in 2023, late 2022, when rates really started to go up drastically. We're not really seeing that as much anymore because I do think we're at the end of this rate hiking cycle. And so I wouldn't recommend doing a 2-1 buy down right now at this point. I think because they're really expensive. You're paying quite a bit of money to decrease that interest rate each month by the full 2%. Right. And so I think that money would be better utilized either paying points or helping reduce your overall closing costs on the loan and just use it to help bring down your closing costs.
Okay, so you wouldn't recommend it. That's good to know because I was never sure. Well, kind of sure. Like I always thought, just buy down. Just do a full buy down if the seller is offering it, or maybe instead of the buy down, I mean, you get lender credit.
You can do
closing cost or anything.
You can do the lender credit. You can actually bring down the purchase price. Right. I think there's a lot of other options at this point. 2 years ago, I would have said yes, that's a good idea.
Right.
But because we are at the end of this cycle, I don't think it makes sense at this point.
So that's interesting. So I mean, that's very helpful. I think that 2-1 buy downs, buying down points, I think that it is something that we have not talked about a lot in the past few years, but with interest rates, like you said, we are continuing to talk about it and people are still interested. So.
Yeah, and most of the time, I'll just kind of leave the conversation here. I feel like the majority of the time, if you are online and looking at rates, the rate that you are seeing typically has one discount point attached to it. So even the loan that we closed through Chaffa together with our first-time home buyers, the rate that Chaffa quotes every day includes one discount point.
Okay. So the lesson is, hey, don't just take it word for word. Don't just look at points or interest rate. Look at interest rates plus what the cost is to get that loan.
Yes. So if you are actually shopping rates, what I would request is their fee worksheet along with the interest rate so that you can be sure that you're comparing apples to apples.
Yeah. I think that's great. Thanks, Patrick, for that.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're all done.
I think we're all done for this podcast.
Yeah. Well, it's good to be back.
Yes. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Kim. If you know anybody that's found this podcast useful, please give us a like or a share. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes.
See you next week.